Welcome to FlexJet TV. My name is Fabrizio. Today's episode is about jet sharing and fractional ownership. Something very interesting. You obviously come to this channel because you've got the question, I'm not sure if I want to buy a whole jet. What's it like to buy a fraction of a jet or half a jet or share a jet? And so we're going to answer those questions in this episode of FlexJet TV. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, this is all about private aviation. I encourage you to subscribe to this channel and give us a thumbs up and comment below. We love to hear your recommendations and suggestions. So let's look into the whole sharing a jet and fractional ownership in today's episode. Off we go. So you've come to this episode of FlexJet TV because you're thinking of buying an aircraft, but you're thinking maybe sharing a jet, fractional ownership. You looked at the FlexJet option, the NetJets. FlexJet have just recently opened offices in Malta. They're ramping up, their fleet here in Europe because more and more people are looking into private jet usage after lockdowns, with airline travel resuming, but not at the levels that we saw before COVID. So a lot of people that are having to fly from A to B to C to D are struggling because the airlines aren't flying those routes, or aren't flying the routes that they need as frequent as they used to. So private jet is an option. Now let's talk about sharing and fractional ownership. Now first I'd like to touch on the fractional ownership. Fractional ownership, with companies like NetJets and FlexJet and that, they've got large fleets of aircraft that cover worldwide. I did send a client over to them last year. We did a consulting call and he asked my opinion, his solution, and the solution there, I sent him to one of these large fractional ownerships because this client needed an aeroplane in Austria and also one in New York same day, so his son could use the aeroplane. And so it just made sense for them to buy into a fractional ownership program, because this company that owned all the jets had airplanes in New York and airplanes in Austria as well. And so by buying a share of an airplane, both father and son could use the same type of airplane on the same day, but two different specific airplanes. But you understand the thing. So that's why I sent him over to the big fractional ownership. I didn't sell him an aircraft or leasing a plane, because he would have had the airplane in Austria, and then the son needed the plane on the same day. Plane can't be in two places at the same time. So that's the advantage you get with these large fractional ownership companies. But it comes with a cost. They are quite pricey compared to other solutions out there. But for certain type of person, certain need, it is a good and viable option. Now the other thing is jet sharing. Now the very first jet that I flew was a Citation 1. It was based in Milan Linate, and it was owned by two people. And the two owners shared the jet. And the advantage of sharing a jet is very simple. When you acquire an aircraft and you operate an aircraft, there's always three elements to the cost. It's CFO, as I call it. The C standing for capital, meaning how much is it going to cost you to buy this airplane. The F stands for the fixed cost, and the O stands for the operational cost. The fixed costs are things like hangar, insurance, pilot salaries. Whether you fly or not, you still got to pay for those things. And then the operational costs are things like fuel, certain parts of maintenance that you pay for when you fly, landing fees. Those are things that you pay for when you fly. So if you can find somebody locally that wants to share a jet, and there are people that do this, you can do it, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. But let's look at the 2 people option, and let's look at an example with, for example, a Hawker 800 XP. Now the Hawker is an airplane that's sort of coming back in fashion just recently. There are spare parts available, even though they don't manufacture these airplanes anymore. People are buying them for $600,000-$700,000, giving them a refurb, a new interior, upgrade the avionics and all that kind of good stuff. And so let's say you acquire a Hawker on your own, acquire it, upgrade it and everything, and your capital spend is $1.5 million. So there you go, so your capital is $1.5 million, your fixed cost is going to be about $500,000 a year, and then you have your operational costs. Let's say you fly 200 hours at $3,000 an hour, that's $600,000, so that's a total of $2.6 million. So that's if you do this on your own. If you manage to find a local partner that wants to buy 50% but only fly, let's say, 100 hours, so the airplane's now going to fly 300 hours, you still fly your 200 hours, the costs are going to be, instead of spending 1.5 million capital, it's 50-50, so you only pay 750,000. On the fixed cost, it's instead of 500,000, it's 250 because it's 250 each, and then you're still paying your 600,000 for your 200 hours on the operational costs. But your outlay at the end of the day is 1.6 million instead of 2.6 million. So you're saving $1 million. And that's kind of the advantage. The other guy's only doing 100 hours, but he owns 50% of the aircraft, so he can, ride that depreciation on the 50% that he owns and that. So it's an advantage for him and an advantage for you. The only downside on a solution like this is, what happens if both of you want to use the airplane on Monday morning? So this is where, you have to find the right partner in order to be able to make this jet sharing work. You usually don't get this problem with large fleets like NetJets or FlexJet because they've got a number of people and a number of aircraft. So if you've got two people on a Monday morning that want to use the airplane, they'll just send two jets. You don't get this when you're doing this local, unless you're buying into a local company that's got maybe 4 hawkers, let's say, and which are owned by 2 people or 4 people each, and then it so happens that on Monday morning your hawker is used by you, and the other hawker can be the other guy that owns half of your airplane can use another one of the hawkers that happens to be sitting there on the Monday morning. So if there's more than one airplane in the local fractional or jet sharing scheme, if you want to call it that, then it will work. So as you can see, it very much depends upon your circumstance, and putting these partners together isn't easy. You've got to find the right match, but it certainly is a great solution because it brings the cost down for everybody. It's a win-win across the board. The other option would be to lease instead of buying, so you wouldn't have that capital outlay, that 1.5 million we talked about. You wouldn't have that, so you can lease an airplane for 12 months, see how you get on, and obviously you'll pay all the other costs, and you'll pay a little bit for the airplane as well, but it's going to cost you less than buying the aircraft. It all depends on your situation, your business, where you want to go, taxation, where you are. Regarding private jets, some countries are more in favour of private jets, others aren't. Within the US, there are some states that are more pro private aviation than others. So we really need to get specific, and that's why I encourage people always, ping me an email. Let's get on a call. Let's see what we can do for you here, and help you to make the right choice private jet wise. Whether you're going to do fractional ownership, jet sharing, lease, or buy a jet outright. That's something that's very, very personal, very specific to your case, which is why information we can give you here on BizJet TV is generic information. But buying a private jet or even buying into a program, whether it's fractional, jet sharing, or a lease, is something that needs to be looked at very carefully, and needs to be very tailored to your organisation. So that's all from me on this episode. If you haven't subscribed to BizJet TV, I encourage you to subscribe. Give us a like, comment below. Love to hear your comments. What do you think about jet sharing? Have you ever experienced jet sharing? Have you bought into a fractional ownership program? How are you getting on? Which program did you buy into? Did you find it's working for you? Let's get a conversation going. It'd be great. And that's all from Fabrizio on BizJet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.